Hello, HWE 100. It is Monday, April 25th. I am done grading 3-day diet analysis and wanted to pop in with a little video and say hello and thank you for submitting those lengthy assignments. I hope that you found them to be valuable and analyzing your diet and getting kind of some reflective feedback on changes that would benefit you. So let me know if you have questions about anything that I said on there with regards to your assignment. I did want to just share a few things in case, just some whole class feedback, just um, in case you want to continue using NutriCalc or you had confusion of what I was talking about and so forth and so on. So a lot of you missed the percent of calories from such and such macronutrients. So percent of calories from protein was first, percent of calories from carbohydrates, and percent of calories from fat. So when we're looking, this is just a bar graph, or excuse me, yes, a bar graph from a student. And I covered up the name, so you can't really see who it is, but just using it as an example. This was not a 3-day diet analysis, or this was not 3 days, this is just 1 day, but it doesn't matter regardless. So the DRI column was obviously the numbers that were spit out to you based off of your profile information. So your height, your weight, your activity level, whether you are pregnant or breastfeeding, male or female. And that's where these numbers are generated from. So this column, the first column, is based off of the food that you inputted for this is 1 day, for 3 days, whatever the amount is. This is the column. So if it was 3 days, it averaged those numbers. Okay, so when we're looking at the percent of calories from a particular macronutrient, it actually gave you the number here. So it was funny that a lot of you were over here going for this number here. This is the percent of your DRI goal, your DRI recommendation that you met or didn't meet. So in this instance, this person ate 149% of their goal, which was 50 grams of protein. But that was not the percent of protein in their diet, the percent of calories that came from protein. So the percent of calories that came from protein is sitting here. And remember why I was asking you that, because we have our AMDRs, our acceptable macronutrient distribution ranges. And so that's where you kind of determine whether your macronutrient intake is in the acceptable range. So in this instance, the percent of calories coming from protein from this person's diet was 17.6%. And remember that for protein, our AMDR is 10 to 35%. So this person did fit within the guidelines of that percent recommendation of total calories. However, they were high with their protein intake. But that's all relative based on their calorie intake. So this person's calorie intake was low. That's why their protein seems high and their percentage is on the higher end of that. Okay, same goes for carbohydrates. So they ate 283 grams. Their goal was 325. My cat's making noises here in the background. The total percent of calories coming particularly from carbohydrates was the 65.4%. So almost half of their calories came from carbohydrates. Remember that macronutrient distribution range is 45 to 65%. So they were just slightly over that range. Then we move down to fat, and they ate 36.8 grams of fat. As far as the percent of calories coming from fat in their diet on that particular day, it was 19.2%. And our acceptable macronutrient distribution range, AMDR, for fat is 20 to 35% of total calories. So that person is below that range there. So then we asked for the percent of saturated fat, percent of calories coming from saturated fat. Remember, even though it was given to you on this worksheet, we can calculate it too. And that's where 4 calories per gram protein and carbohydrates and 9 calories per gram from protein, or from fat, came into play. So if we ate, we know the grams of fat. So if we ate 10.5 grams of fat, and we know that fat has 9 calories per gram, then we would multiply this 10.5 grams by 9 to get the amount of calories coming from saturated fat. Again, they actually calculate that for you here on NutriCalc. So calories from saturated fat is 94.6. So that's 10.5 times 9. And then we take that divided by the total number of calories eaten. And we can do that quick calculation here and come up with a percent. So 94.6 divided by 17 point. 94.6 divided by 17, I was doing 28 calories is moving the decimal place over 2 places. We get 5.5% of calories coming from saturated fat. So that's how you would calculate that. And that's how you calculate any of these numbers, but it's just NutriCalc did the calculation for you. But saturated fat, it did not. Okay, so the red numbers on NutriCalc are those numbers that we should pay attention to. So there's a total sugars category. So this is another thing that I thought was interesting. And then they've added this added sugars category. This was something new to NutriCalc within the last, I think it's been last year, maybe even last semester. I don't even know if this category was here. So they are giving you a recommendation for keeping your sugars, your added sugars, under 29.5 grams for this person. That's not the same for everybody. And this person obviously went over their added sugar intake, and then total sugar. So it does describe this down at the bottom of your page. It says total sugars includes those naturally occurring in food and then added sugars. So I'm going to attach a little article on what we consider total sugars, and then breaking it down into natural sugars and added sugars. Just think of it this way. So added sugars are anything that's added to a food product, or coffee that is in sugar form. So that could be honey, that could be agave, that could be plain white sugar, that could be brown sugar, that could be maple syrup. That's added sugar. Natural sugars are coming from fruit and from dairy. So the milk sugar that we find in dairy, that's a natural sugar. The fructose, which is fruit sugar, that's a natural sugar also. So that's what's included in those. So when you were reading that, reading your food list and determining what was a natural sugar versus an added sugar, that's how you can break it down. But I will also attach that a little article on that too. This was interesting though. In some form or fashion, it seemed that it didn't calculate the added sugars as much as I thought it should be, where some of you maybe had cookies or yogurt or a soda or something, and it seemed like your added sugars should have been a little bit higher, and it wasn't. So I don't know how accurate this is at this point with NutriCalc, but it's an interesting subcategory nonetheless. I did have a couple of you add fiber, tack fiber on, so soluble fiber and insoluble fiber, you added it to the dietary fiber. The dietary fiber is all the fiber together, including soluble and insoluble. It's just breaking it down for you. So dietary fiber is your total intake of all fibers, soluble and insoluble. Let's see. Again, looking at those red numbers, obviously saturated fat and added sugars are ones we want to keep our eye on. Cholesterol is one that we keep our eye on as well with our consumption of dietary cholesterol. And then sodium. Sodium is the other biggie that we were keeping our eyes on. So a lot of you would notice that if you ate lots of fast food or restaurant food or packaged items, your sodium was much, much higher than this 2,300 milligrams. Let's see, I'm thinking that was all that I really wanted to bring attention to. So it was interesting to look at your micronutrient intake and where your values sat there and what foods would boost that. So thank you guys for exploring that activity. Like I said, I hope that you had fun doing it and that it was of benefit for you. I will stop rambling now because this has gotten a little bit long. But if you have questions above and beyond what I've covered here, please just let me know. And you guys, you only have about 2 weeks left here at this point. So job well done. And we are in the home stretch of the spring semester. So that is great. Okay, everyone take care and email me with any questions that you have.